Hello everybody and welcome to Greenstone's webinar on aligning global sustainability frameworks, the role of software in mapping data. Thank you for joining us. Today we are joined by Greenstone's Managing Director North America, David Wynn, and Alyson Genovese from GRI. The presentations will run for around 35 minutes and then we'll have time for 10 minutes of Q&A. Please do use the question function within GoToWebinar to ask the presenters questions as we go along, and we'll try to answer them during the session. If we don't get to answer them all, don't worry, as we plan to put together a Q&A document that we will then distribute to everyone who registered for the webinar. The slides will also be distributed to all attendees after the session. With that, I hand over to David, who will take you through what will be covered in today's session.
Great, thank you very much, Kat. So hi everybody and welcome. I'm David Wynn. I'm the Managing Director of North America at Greenstone. And I'm going to just take us through a short agenda for what we're going to be talking about on today's webinar. So firstly, I'm going to kick off by having a look at some of the global reporting frameworks and some of the key trends that we're seeing within the global sustainability reporting space. Following on from that, I'm very pleased to welcome Alyson to today's webinar. So I'll be passing over to her to talk to us a little bit more about the role of the GRI standards and some of the GRI alignment work that's going on. And then our final section will be unpicking in a bit more detail about some of the challenges and opportunities for leveraging data from multiple frameworks. So looking at the alignment opportunities and how software can fit into that as a key tool to help with that framework mapping. So as mentioned, if you have any questions, please do send them to us through the chat and we'll have time at the end to pick up those questions and also circulate them as follow-up from today's webinar. Great, so for those of you that have not heard of Greenstone before, we're a sustainability software company and we have been providing sustainability solutions since 2007 to organizations to enable them to become more responsible businesses. And through our software platforms, we provide the enterprise software for within organizations, a supply chain tool, and investor portal for investors to get ESG data from their portfolios. As well as some of the awards that you can see there, we're also proud accredited sponsors of the CDP and part of the GRI accredited software tools program. Great, so in this first part, I'm going to just pick up on some of the global trends that we're seeing within the sustainability reporting space. And we're going to have a look at just sort of some of these in detail to sort of understand the landscape a little bit more. So firstly, we can't really start a webinar in June 2020 without talking about the post-COVID climate action and talking about the current global situation. We'll then have a look at the rise of TCFD and then the role of SDGs and how that's been evolving. And then finally, we'll have a look at some of the trends in impact reporting, sustainable stock exchanges, and wrapping up on the EU taxonomy in this first part. So firstly, obviously thinking about reporting, one of the key pieces that organizations are looking at is what it means to be a sustainable business in today's global landscape. And a lot of organizations, as well as World Economic Forum, have been talking about a global reset and an opportunity for organizations to build back better in terms of how we come out of the current COVID situation. And while some organizations are in that position and are able to think about building back better, we can't ignore the fact that for many sectors and organizations, this has been hugely impactful and a fundamental reshaping of how their businesses or supply chains are having to operate within that. So for many, the idea of using these frameworks to be able to report on that is really, at the forefront of what's being looked at. So in addition to that, there's obviously a few cultural things that I'm sure many of us are feeling. So reflecting, restructure, and rebuilding being one of them, as well as an audience shift. So this concept of sort of Zoomageddon, where this digital plug for what historically has been a more face-to-face way of operating as businesses. Finally, then, when we look at things, the concept of going back to normal, what does that actually mean? Is it around a more seasonal way of approaching your business? Is it in a different way of operating? And with that, is there a need for a wider understanding of supply chains and origin within that? And finally, really thinking about purpose. So for corporate purpose, what is that balance between people, profit, and planet? And how is that embedded within businesses? So more than ever, there's a huge set of challenges and opportunities that organizations are facing based on today's current situation.